mock drafts for next season have started coming out, and there are two, count it, two Illini projected to be drafted in the first round. Locked on Illini, let's go.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Illini. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. Just a simple reminder, we are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Sunny Verma. You can find me at IlliniCast. If you'd like to support the show, just hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. It'll help our algorithm out. Today's going to be a fun episode. We're going to be talking about the early mock drafts that are starting to pop up on various media outlets. And we're also going to talk about the new NCAA football game and the lack of Illini representation, at least in the release today. But first and foremost, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right. As I said in the opener, the NBA mock drafts are slowly starting to creep out, and there's a couple familiar names that are showing up who will be playing for the Orange and Blue next season. And to bring someone on, I wanted to bring on a familiar guest. So today is kind of the casual Friday episode, except it's on Thursday with Casual Kent. How are you, sir?
Sonny, thank you so much for having me on again. There is only a few other places in the world I would rather be right now. I can't say this is the only place I would rather be because I can think of a few better ones, but you know what? I'm still happy to be here, though, man. It's good to see your face again.
I appreciate it. And Kent, that's a blatant lie. If anyone who follows me on Twitter knows, Kent was on a podcast yesterday being interviewed by a big body of water. I tweeted out a screenshot of that. But regardless, Kent, I know you're a busy man. Thank you for joining me today. I thought today's topic would be good for you because you do follow the Big Ten on kind of a higher level. Obviously, us Illini fans were very excited about some of the names that are kind of showing up in NBA mock drafts for us this year. Usually, we may or may not have one or two show up, but right now, especially in particular, I'm just going to bring up Jonathan Givony, the co-owner of DraftExpress.com. He's got Kaspris Yakushonis and Will Riley showing up in being drafted in the first round next year. What are your initial thoughts on that?
I mean, I definitely think that's a possibility. I haven't seen, neither one of these guys we've seen even play in the Big Ten. So it's going to be nice, getting through a season before we say, hey, this is exactly where these guys are going to be drafted. But to me, it's never too early to put out a mock draft. It's never too early to put out predictions. It keeps the conversation going. So for me, it's really fun. But it's difficult at this time, though, because you don't know who's going to declare for the draft. You don't know what kind of season each one of these guys is going to have. And obviously you don't know about injuries. Hopefully everybody that is in all these mock drafts stays healthy and they're going to be able to be drafted where they're supposed to be. But it's hard to say right now, but it's very exciting to even have guys mentioned that high. Two of them, in the first round is very exciting.
And it's also kind of confirming what I've been saying on this show for a very, very long time. Last year, Brad Underwood finally got over the hump, made it to the Elite Eight. And obviously we had fantastic seasons from guys like Terrence Shannon Jr. and Marcus Damask. But I've been saying for a while, taking a look at who we ultimately ended up landing in that locker room now, I think this year's locker room actually has more talent than last year's teams did. And I mean, you're talking about, obviously Terrence Shannon got drafted at the end of the first round this past season. Marcus Damask, unfortunately, didn't get drafted, although it's pretty cool. He gets to play for at least my hometown, Chicago Bulls. Quincy Guerrier, same thing. He signed one of those deals with, I think, the Toronto Raptors. So, I mean, there was NBA talent there, but not first round talent like we're having right now. And, you're right. both Will Riley and Kasparis we haven't seen yet this year, but I've been watching a lot of Kasparis tape over the last couple of weeks, and I'm not gonna lie. Like I try to anoint my flag as being, Kasparis being my guy for this upcoming season because I just love his game. I love everything about him. And now other people are kind of saying, hey, yeah, Kasparis is going to be, is he a sleeper Big Ten player of the year? I think I heard on some podcast. But so I think the secret's out on Kasparis. But I mean, this is just Brad Underwood being what Brad Underwood does best. It's if you asked Illinois fans 2 months ago, everyone was in panic mode when David Jones decided to eventually stay at Memphis if he wasn't going to stay in the NBA draft. Everyone was wondering, okay, how are we going to fill out these roster spots? Hey, we've gotten a couple good role players on this team, but we don't have any star players. Well, who wasn't worried? Brad Underwood. He brings in Orlando Antigua, and now all of a sudden we've got not just a good locker room, but in my opinion, arguably the most talented locker room in the entire Big Ten.
Yeah, and there was another guy too that I feel like just but a month ago or maybe even 2 months ago, I thought that AJ Storr had a real chance to come to Illinois. Like everybody was talking about that. So that kind of adds to, what you were saying about filling up the roster with an actual star. And, by the way, he's on some of these mock drafts as well. He's a first or second round talent. He could be depending on the season. But going back to what you were saying before, though, the roster being more talented, it's so hard for me to say that, though. And the only reason why is because Terrence Shannon Jr. was one of my favorite players that I've watched in the last 5 years. He was so talented. He was so fun to watch, so athletic, and just so easy to cheer for that it's really difficult for me to say, like, it's only, and this is so dumb, because it's just my emotional connection, and I don't have that with these guys yet that are on the roster. It could get there, maybe. Maybe Will Riley is my guy. We don't know. Maybe that's like who I get connected with next year, and I'm like, man, this guy's just so fun to cheer for. But I definitely see what you're saying. I think the roster, it could be more talented next year, but I just can't say it yet just because of Terrence. That's the only reason why.
I mean, it makes sense. But the only thing is that, like, I'm not trying to disrespect Terrence in any sort of way, but he was 24 years old. 24 years old playing in, I think it was his, fifth season in college basketball. So, and he was built like a football player. He was built like an NBA player. So a lot of it was talent, but a lot of it was also some intangibles that kind of came along with it. Whereas a guy like Will Riley, if you look at his high school tape, you're just talking about one of the best scorers in the entire country. And so, there's no way Will Riley or Kasparis are going to be able to match what Terrence Shannon Jr. did on last year's team. They won't even be able to match, what Marcus Domask did on last year's team. But, I've said I think the Illini are probably a top 4 team in the Big Ten this upcoming season. But the following year, if these mock drafts don't come true, and then, either one of Will Riley or Kasparis stay for one more season and we get a sophomore year out of them, I think this team can win the national championship.
Yeah, no doubt. And I agree with that too, because as I'm looking through these mock drafts, I know you already mentioned the 2 guys that are near the top, but I'm seeing Kylan's name pop up on some of these too. Like he could possibly, they had him in a first round mock for next year's draft on, I believe it was Yahoo. Now, I understand that anyone can put out a mock draft. You can put anyone's name on it. But if you even have 3 guys that are on, I don't know if there's another team. There's definitely not one in the Big Ten. I'll say that. There's not another Big Ten team that can say, we have 3 guys that are being mocked in the first round on anybody's mock draft. And even Rutgers can't say that with the 2 guys that are probably going to be drafted in the top 5. They don't have a third one that's on anybody's list. So
2 of the top 5, but
yeah. I mean, yeah, it's nice to have 2 in the top 5, but just like what you were saying though, if you got 3 of those guys though, that's a very solid start to making a deep run in March, and it's gonna be really exciting.
I mean, the crowd here knows my thoughts on Underwood and how pro Underwood I am, but do you have any thoughts or feedback on what I said earlier? Like this roster, we didn't know what it was going to look like 2 months ago, and a lot of us were in panic mode. But now you see the roster that we've kind of built. What are your thoughts from the outside looking in at the job Brad Underwood is doing?
I mean, obviously he's done a great job, and I think the word that's coming to my mind first is just adaptability, because he's been around for a long time, and within the last couple of years, and it feels like really this year, things have changed so much. Everybody's roster is being dismantled and trying to get it put back together in one off season. And the job that he did so quickly after making a pretty deep run this year, Big Ten championship, and then going, like you said, to the Elite Eight, after all that, to be able to put things back together with everything that they lost so quickly, I mean, you have to tip your cap to him. It doesn't matter if you're an Underwood hater or not. Getting a team like that put together in that amount of time is just really impressive. So, yeah, I think he did a great job.
He's done a fantastic job. In the next segment, we're going to talk about Brett Bielema, who, unfortunately, the results of what we're going to talk about show that he may need to step it up a notch. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, there's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. So if you're a college football fan, probably of the younger variety, you know that July 19th is going to be a monumental day. That's when the new EA Sports College Football 2025 comes out. And those of you who pre-ordered, I think you're able to spend a couple extra bucks and get it on July 15th. Obviously, EA Sports is absolutely milking this release. Essentially every single day they're releasing, whether it's a ratings or this and that or gameplay footage, whatnot. All of YouTube, all of the internet is essentially waiting for this game. The last version that was released was NCAA Football 2014, I believe it was. And right now, if you try to go on eBay and try to buy a copy of that game, it would cost you like $200, $250. That's how obsessed folks were with that college football games. But Kent, I think you're buying the game.
Yeah, well, like you said, I'm of the younger variety. So, yeah, I'm a college football fan. I'm young. Of course I'm buying the game.
I'm like right in the middle. I don't really play video games anymore, but there's no way I'm going to not be able to buy this one. I just know I won't be playing online like I know you will. I'm just tired. I'm at the point in my life that I don't need 12 and 13-year-olds like beating me 53-10 in a video game. Like video games for me are like a mental release where I can just kind of relax. I don't need to be beaten down mentally by that. I have 2 children who already do that for me.
Yeah, I do. I have 3 kids still, and but after next week, they don't exist to me anymore. The game is way more important now. Yeah, it's tough, man. I've been playing Madden online already, and it does get to me sometimes when it's like, man, why is my team playing like this right now? We got to be better. We got to be better, boys. It's gonna get worse next week. I'm gonna be stressed out about these games for sure. But you're right, dude. Every day it seems like something new is coming out, and then today they dropped the top. I think it was just the top 100 roster, and it feels like every day there's more content to consume about this, and it's just adding to the anticipation. I'm ready to just play the game. Actually, would be nice.
What they said they were going to release today was a roster reveal. So a lot of folks thought that, okay, they're going to release all the rosters on all the football teams, and you can kind of see what your players are rated and each different, attributes and whatnot. What actually ended up happening is they only released the top 100 players in the game. So I saw this, release, and I was like, all right, let me click on the website, have some content for Locked On Illini. Let's, talk about which Illini are going to be in that top 100, and, we can talk about whether we agree with it or not. So I opened up the website, and I scrolled, and I scrolled, and I skimmed, and I scrolled, only coming down to 100 and seeing that there were no Illini in the top 100. Again, it's a bummer because in the first segment, we're talking about how fantastic of a job Brad Underwood has done raising the ceiling of that basketball team and bringing in high-end talent. I'm a big Brett Bielema guy too, but this also kind of gives you a glimpse of what he's been doing with the football program. He's done a really good job, bringing in foundational recruiting classes, good raising the floor of the team. But I mean, I'll be honest, I'm surprised. I would have put a guy like Seth Coleman or Gabe Jackas or certainly maybe Zachary Franklin in the top 100s. Franklin is, you're talking about the most heralded wide receiver coming into this season. Like, there's no one who matches his receiving resume in all of college football, but apparently it's not good enough for the top 100.
Well, the thing is, though, Sonny, you can't be. I mean, I understand. I would be upset too, but there's more teams in the Big Ten too that also didn't have any. So you have company. Nebraska, I don't even think had anybody. They didn't. Nebraska did not. That's what I was just checking. I was clicking on some teams to see if they had any, and Nebraska doesn't have any. Michigan State doesn't have any. UCLA doesn't have
that
any.
Makes me feel better. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I saw that we had none, and I quickly exited the webpage, and I was like, okay, I'm going to curse EA Sports once we start recording this episode. But if you're telling me there's other teams in the Big Ten also without representation, then I feel a little bit better about this.
There's at least 7 because I just filtered it. The website has the little filter thing, and I clicked on 9 teams of teams that I didn't notice anybody on there, and the only 2 that came back to me were Minnesota has 1 and Rutgers has 1. So the other 7 teams I clicked on, I was trying to pull it back up, but we don't have to go through them all. But I just listed like 4 of them, though. So I know there's a few. Indiana doesn't have any, and then the other teams that I just listed. So there's good company. At least, there's some competitive teams. Like, I think Nebraska's going to be really competitive in football this year. They don't have a top 100 guy at all.
Yeah,
even Raiola, I feel like that would have like moved the needle, like freshman 5-star quarterback coming in. Maybe let's throw put him at 99 or something, like right out on the cusp of the top 100, just to get people in Nebraska talking. That would have moved some units on Twitter today, I think, if they would have done that.
And it's a video game, right?
Yeah.
It's
so
like,
who cares? Yeah.
Ratings really, really matter ultimately. Yeah. And I might just be justifying that in my own head because there's no Illini in the top 100. But Ken, is there anything else that just kind of jumped out at you amongst the Big Ten or college football, whatever, when it comes to the ratings?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you start looking at it, I had a post today where I listed the top 25 guys that were within that top 100 that were just in the Big Ten. And, you just look over that list, and it just seems like you just keep seeing Ohio State, Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan. And Ohio State did have 8 guys that are in the top 25 of the Big Ten. So what this video game is saying is that of the top 25 best players in the Big Ten, Ohio State has 8 of them. Michigan has 5 of them. That's over half of those guys right there. It's crazy that they have that many guys rated that high in this game already. I feel like it's going to be an automatic win if you pick one of those 2 teams next week.
So then, I mean, if that's the case, can the Ohio State fans stop crying about EA Sports hating them? I know it kind of became an inside joke amongst everyone. Like every highlight from every trailer showed there was not one positive one for Ohio State. And so if there's one fan base that's fun to kind of tick off and piss off, it's that Ohio State fan base. And they took it personal. Like they started deep diving on like the executives and the game developers. And they're like, oh, this guy is a Michigan fan. He went to Michigan. They're doing this on purpose. Well, you know what? They might have been having a little fun with the trailers, but obviously, I mean, if you're talking about having 8 of the guys in the top 100, I mean, they did Ohio State good.
I think they might even have more than 8. This is just out of the top 25 best Big Ten guys that I pulled up. So I just put that list out. They have 8 of those. So I think they might even have close to 10. I didn't check the full numbers on the whole top 100, but yeah, it was really funny. I regret to inform you that I did see those screenshots of people like looking up, executives' LinkedIns and saying that they went to the University of Michigan. I was like, man, the fact that I even know that happened. I'm in too deep right now with this Big Ten stuff. Like I shouldn't know about that.
No, when I wasn't kidding when I opened up this segment and said that people have been obsessed with this game once it was announced by EA Sports. I don't know what took them so long. Waiting 10 years. I guess maybe it's this whole NIL thing.
Yeah.
Now these players are getting paid. I don't know if you saw that Arch Manning news that dropped a couple days ago where he initially was not going to participate in it. And then I guess he got thrown $50,000 or $60,000. And, that was enough to sway his mind to be in the game.
I did not know that. I saw that he was back in the game. I didn't know that. I'm hoping EA didn't pay him that. because that's some nonsense. If they're paying him more than everybody else, if I play with Texas, which I never will because I'm only going to use Big Ten teams, but if I play with Texas, I'm benching him. I'm upset with him for even
You don't
making
have
us go.
to.
Yeah,
He's
bench
not
him.
their starter. Quinn Ewers is their starter.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to put him third string then. He's getting punished somehow. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to punish him. What's the big deal then? If he's not even their starter, who cares if he's in the game?
It's that name. I'm telling you,
Oh,
the Mannings
God.
are very good at football, but you know what they might even be better at? Business. They know what they're doing. You know, he initially declined, and all of a sudden now he's 5 figures richer.
Yeah, well, good. You know what? Good for him. I'm very happy for him.
I'm happy he's in it because that's going to be target number 1 for me in the first offseason to try to swoo him over. You know, you're not even starting at Texas. You know, come play quarterback for the Illini.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good move right there. I see. Look you're already thinking next level, man. You still got it. You still got it, man.
Or when I think of video games, I feel like Oregon would be a team that, you know, you're talking about the speedy wide receivers and whatnot. Are they well represented in that top 100? Any idea?
So Dylan Gabriel is number 30, and then I know they had a wide receiver. I'm looking down here. Tez Johnson is number 59, and then they have a cornerback, Muhammad, at 65. They might have something. Like I said, this is just the. I could have pulled up the whole list, but it'd take me a second. But they have at least 3 guys in the top 100, at least 3. So I'm surprised because they've been. Everybody that I talk to from Oregon talks about both of their wide receivers, so I'm surprised they're not both in there. But I've heard a lot about Tez Johnson, though, and he's there, so that's good.
If you're going to be playing and you're looking for a dynasty to join, follow Kent at Casual Big Ten. I think he's doing the Xbox version. I'm going to try to find someone to play with on the PlayStation 5, so if any of you guys out there want to let me in, let me know. Either way, again, the game comes out July 19th. Let me know in the chat. Are you guys going to buy it? Who are you planning on starting with? Are you going to be doing it with Illinois? Are you going to do it with a smaller team? Or are you going to be doing it with, you know, a team that can actually contend? Truthfully, I think I'm going to go. I like the whole idea of building with a smaller team and just working my way up the career ladder. I've watched a couple YouTube videos of that. I think that's the route I'm going to go. July 19th, I'll put the link to the game in the description. You watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Kent, not that I have to tell you because I know you are a longtime day one subscriber and you download and listen to every single podcast. Earlier this week, I did a segment on Brad Underwood and the brutal schedule, I think I called it, that we have in the out-of-conference schedule. You know, you're talking about teams like Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee, Duke. Obviously, the Illini, we're really taking on all challengers and oncomers, at least for the out-of-conference schedule. There's a certain team to our east who kind of got made fun of this past week. Obviously, I'm talking about the Indiana Hoosiers who released their non-conference schedule. And I'm going to say it politely. It wasn't nearly as tough. I'll just read it out loud really quick. I'll just skim through it. It's SIU Edwardsville, UNC Greensboro, Eastern Illinois, South Carolina. Then they have a Battle for Atlantis tournament. Then Sam Houston State, Miami of Ohio, UT Chattanooga, and Winthrop. Now, I'm biased. Obviously, I've talked about this on the show before. I understand what Brad Underwood is doing. So I'm trying to take a step back here. Let's say you are the head coach of a D1 program. Would you lean more towards building a gauntlet of a schedule to get your team prepared? Or would you take the Mike Woodson route and try to maybe take things a little easy, especially after the last couple seasons that Indiana has had?
Well, first of all, I totally could be a D1 coach. I just choose not to be. You know, I like to hang out with you. I don't want to be out on the recruiting trail. I want to talk about basketball. So let's just get that out of the way to start. But I would say that I lean towards not to just, come on your show and agree with you on everything, because you know how much I don't like agreeing with you. But I would lean toward. Yeah, exactly. I would lean towards a harder schedule, though. Here's why. I have a very short-term memory, and to my knowledge, the team from the Big Ten that went to the national championship last year was Purdue, and I will give them flowers on an Illinois show. They had a brutal schedule last year, absolutely brutal. They played top 10 teams out of conference left and right, and they were winning those games, and I think that it prepared them for the tournament. So I think that that's something that's good. Tom Izzo has a history of doing this. He makes deep runs in tournaments. He always schedules really tough games. It doesn't matter what kind of team he has. He is going to challenge his guys throughout. So I would not do this. Here's the second reason why. If you get a loss, let's say Indiana drops one at home to Eastern Illinois, what does that do to a team that's trying to get a high seed in the March Madness tournament, or whatever you want to call it? That sounded weird how I said it. Your net ranking is dropping immediately losing to a team like that, and it's going to affect you. So the easy win benefit does not outweigh the punishment that you will get if you actually drop one of these games. So it's just not worth it. You should go out and challenge yourself, get ready for the postseason, and not lose any. Even if you lose to a really good team, it doesn't hurt you as much as losing to one of these teams.
So I do have a thought, and let me know what you think. Do you think any of this has to do with, obviously, there's a lot of pressure on Mike Woodson coming into this season. They haven't performed to the level that Hoosiers fans would like, and I don't think there's a team in the country that spent more of their NIL war chest than the Hoosiers did. Do you think that any of it could have to do with maybe like an insecurity on Mike Woodson's part, knowing that he has to get off to a really, really good start this season? Otherwise, people are going to be calling for heads. They were already calling for him to be fired last year.
I don't know Mike Woodson, so I don't know what's going on in his heart and with his desires and things like that. I will say, though, it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad thought to say, hey, let's go pick up a bunch of easy wins, stat pad our record here, make it look like we're doing way better than we are against these really bad teams. Even if you look at Battle for Atlantis, by the way, there's not very many good teams. There's only a couple good teams there. It's Arizona and Gonzaga. Davidson, Louisville, Oklahoma, Providence, West Virginia. These are not good teams that they're playing at that. And by the way, nobody has ever actually won Atlantis. What's going on with that? The team last year didn't get to keep Atlantis. What's that about? You're not actually getting Atlantis. So I don't get it. But I think that I'm not going to say that you're right because I don't know Mike Woodson, but I'll say it's not a bad idea. I'll put it to you that way.
For the record, I actually don't know Mike Woodson either. Kent, another wonderful appearance. Let the folks know where they can find you.
I'm at Casual Big Ten on X, and I also have a YouTube page. I'm streaming Madden right now, but like I said, next week it's all about NCAA 25. I'll be on that a lot. So either YouTube or X, you can find me tweeting and playing video games because I'm a young man.
Kent, I appreciate you. I'll see you next week, okay?
All right. Thanks, man.
Man, there you have it. Another wonderful episode of Locked On Illini. Thank you all so much for joining me. Again, you can find me at IlliniCast. This might be the last episode of the week. I have a certain something that might be showing up in my schedule on Friday. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to release an episode, but I'll certainly be keeping tabs on whether there's any breaking news of some sort. If you want to support the program, please, all I ask is hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I truly would appreciate that. As I talked about on yesterday's episode, I was kind of shocked to see that 71% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed. Simple reminder, I continue to try to be the only daily provider of Illini coverage for you. And so, having said that, I will hopefully try to see you tomorrow. Otherwise, you all enjoy your weekend. ILL. Love you guys.